Is absolutely hard to keep a good stock down. And while many might have expected Tesla to be pretty darn soft this morning, and it did open pretty ragged, it's popped back up and looked like it was going to go into the green. But then all of a sudden, the overall market started going a little soft, and Tesla followed that market action. We're down around 0.5% right now. As I begin, we'll take another look in 20 minutes and see where Tesla ends up at, around 8:15 in the morning, California time. All right, let's go ahead. And what is happening in the news that might be impacting the stock? Well, let's start with Cathie Wood. So ARK Invest Cathie Wood said she would invest in Elon Musk's Tesla if she were only allowed to pick one stock to invest in. So this is I guess maybe it's obvious since it's the number one pick in several of her funds. And sometimes she has it, I think right now, even at 12, 13% of the overall in those funds. Wood was speaking to investor Stephen Bartlett on his podcast, The Diary of a CEO, when Bartlett asked her for her top stock pick. Because think about it, it is a convergence among three of our major platforms: robots, energy, energy storage rather. And she said three, and then she only gave two. AI, there we go, AI, yes, obviously AI. So they're major leaders in AI, major leaders in energy, and also the robotics, whether you're talking about cars, whether you're talking about robotaxis, whether you're talking about Optimus, and also other products to be named. We'll talk about that in a second. You see, it's not stopping with taxis, she says. There's a story beyond that with humanoid robots. And our $2,600 number for 2029, she doesn't say that, has nothing in it for humanoid robots. The $2,600 number she's projecting has nothing in it for robots. We just thought it would be an investment, period, she added. So in June 2024, Wood Investments Management Team, ARK Invest, issued a price target of $2,600 for Tesla. She told Bloomberg during an interview in March that she still stands by her target and expects Tesla stock to hit $2,600 in 5 years. Call that 2030. Wood told Bartlett that Musk's work with Tesla Optimus robots would generate productivity gains for the company and create new sources of revenue. Very few people are talking about the productivity gains for Tesla. I've talked about it over and over again. I've given you numbers. I think right now I consider the possibility it could be 250 million to 500 million by the end of this year and into the $1 billion category next year in terms of the savings on payroll. Musk said in an interview with CNBC last month that he expects Tesla to make 1 million Optimus robots every year by 2030. This from Barron's this morning. On the other side of the coin, Tesla stock was falling early Monday and still is a little bit after getting downgraded to hold from buy at Baird. There's too much uncertainty swirling around the company, and the Trump-Musk feud isn't helping, writes analyst 𝐑𝐚𝐧𝐝𝐲, who's offering 5 reasons for the cut. Tesla stock was down 1.7 at 290 in pre-market trading. Now it's back up to around 295. While S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Averages futures were up a tad at the time. Reasons for the downgrade include lofty robotaxi expectations, key man risk with Elon Musk representing positives and negatives, Musk feud with President Donald Trump, EV competition, the removal of EV purchase tax credits in the U.S., and the overall valuation, wrote 𝐂𝐦𝐚𝐢𝐥, who's kept the stock price at 320 despite his rating cut. We see Tesla as a core holding long term, but are stepping to the sidelines for now. Tesla stock trades for about 150 estimated 2025 earnings. Shares rallied in recent months, partly in anticipation of the robotaxi service as soon as this Thursday. Reports set the date June 12, but Tesla hasn't confirmed that detail yet. Management said in its April 22nd news conference that the launch was on track for June. People are speculating that it's already been launched. I think that's nonsense. We would have had multiple reports of seeing Teslas without anybody in the driver's seat. We haven't heard those reports. So we'll see whether we get the launch on Thursday or whether there's any announcements this week to update us. Tesla stock gave. So there's so much speculation and consternation around the Robotaxi launch this week. Will they use remote operators? This is, by the way, this is me now, not Barron's and not Baird. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of consternation around the Robotaxi launch this week. Will they use remote operators? No, they won't. They're going to have people, they're going to have eyes on. That's 100% sure, but they're not going to be using remote operators. How many remote operators per vehicle? None. They will eyes on. Maybe they might have 50 eyes on 10 vehicles, but they're not going to be remotely operating them. If they've prepped Austin so much, what's the advantage compared to Waymo? Well, you see, they're prepping Austin so much because they can't afford to have any mistakes in Austin, but they can put this down anywhere in the country right now and have it operational. And if you're driving FSD, you know that's true. Can Robotaxi operate safely? We would love to see we would also love to see the numbers from Tesla. What is the criteria? Is it better than a human? Better than Waymo? Which criteria are we going to use? I think better than Waymo should work because Waymo is already operating in Texas, in California, in Florida, not Florida, I'm sorry, I think it's going to be, it's in Arizona. I'm forgetting all the places now that it's operating, but it's operating in places which have some of the highest restrictions like California. So if it's better than Waymo, it should be good enough. But is that better than a human? I think so. What are the current stats for Tesla FSD? That's one of the questions people are asking. Is the new version that much better? We'd love to see the new version, or we'd love to hear that maybe the new version is being rolled out to the employees. If we're going to have this thing operating in Austin, why wouldn't we also have it rolling out to the folks? And so those are some of the questions that are happening right now. Once there's a launch in Austin, what'll happen next? Will it scale? When will the rest of us be able to have full, unsupervised FSD? That's my question. I believe that's the biggest catalyst of all time. Will Grok be in the car? Is Grok going to be in the car on Thursday or whenever it launches? I have to think it's going to be in the car. And if it can be in the car for the launch, why can't we have Grok now? Well, anyway, we're about 4 days away from the launch, at least in theory. Maybe not. Tesla hasn't told us for sure. Many insiders, the insiders that I'm talking to, have not heard anything yet about whether it's Thursday. Here's my very simple-minded theory, however, with regard to the stock valuation. Either Robotaxi will work or it won't. Simple. If it has multiple incidents or accidents, Tesla's likely to go into the tank. The stock's going to go in the tank. Tesla's going to maybe pull it off the road for a week or a month. If it has one incident or no incidents, no accidents, then Tesla will start scaling. And at some point, the debate will be over. At some point, when they get to 100 cars or 1,000 cars or 5,000 cars or 2 cities or 3 cities, at some point, the debate will be over. There is no middle ground that Gary is suggesting or others. Either Tesla will have to pull back due to unforeseen issues, or Tesla will dominate the United States and European countries. No one else can scale. This is the big issue. Nobody else can. If Tesla decided tomorrow they could make 3 million robotaxis a year, they could just turn over all production, Model 3, Model Y, cybercabs, whatever they want, just turn all of it, and they could be doing 3 million. If they thought there was a market for 3 million fleet cars for Tesla, they could start doing that tomorrow. They just decide, no, we're not going to sell consumers anymore. Not going to happen, but they could do that. Nobody else has that possibility. So take anything in between, all right? Whatever Tesla decides that the capacity is, whatever they believe that the demand is, whatever they believe that they can do in terms of releasing it into cities or states, they can just do it. No other company can do that. If Waymo decided tomorrow that they could go nationwide, they would still only be able to roll out 5,000 or 10,000 vehicles a month. Tesla can roll out 100,000 vehicles a month. Regulators. If it works, the regulators will not stop the product. It's just impossible. If it works, if they show consistently week after week, month after month, I don't know how many it takes. If it shows that they're not having accidents, they start to rack up millions of miles. They'll have the numbers, and no regulators get in the way of something that's going to save lives. It just makes no sense. So I think it just has to work as well as Waymo. I've said that before. This is from Tesla Archive this morning. Breaking: Tesla is prepares for their FSD launch in South Korea. Tesla's strengthening their Korea team with government hires. They're aiming for regulatory approval for full self-driving. They're recruiting cybersecurity and insurance specialists, and they're laying the technical foundation for the FSD rollout in Korea. Well, as noted over the weekend, we have this from Investopedia. When Adam Jonas, on Tesla's most recent earnings call, asked Musk for his thoughts on the U.S. and China's AI and robotics rivalry, Musk expressed concern about America's limited drone manufacturing capabilities. Any country that cannot manufacture its own drones is doomed to being a vassal state of any country that can, he said, quoting ex-user Naval. And we can't. America cannot currently manufacture its own drones at any volume. So this is what Elon said just, a couple of months ago. I keep saying drones are going to be coming from Tesla. Tesla, Jonas said, has the host of relevant skills, which is what I said the other day, and which I've been saying for months, to be a factor in the commercial and military low altitude, I'm not sure, LAE, including his work in manufacturing, autonomy, electric motors and batteries, and robotics. Tesla's share of the future $9 trillion UAM market could add between $100 and $1,000 to its share price. So you might want to look at the video that I did over the weekend. I think that was Sunday morning. Maybe I'll put that up at the end here so that you can go back and check it out if you haven't already. I list all kinds of products that Tesla might get into. I think drones are right at the top of the list. I think there's a possibility they're already doing it. Sawyer Merritt says this: Tesla teases upcoming 7-seat Model Y in a new email to customers, ready for anything with long-range seating for up to 7 and enough room for everybody's gear too. This is Randy Kirk. Please hit the like button if anything I've said this morning has been likable. Subscribe if you think that this would be a good idea to be seeing this video every morning about this time. I'm going to play around with the time. It used to be roughly 7:15 in the morning. I don't know. We're going to 7:30. It might be a little later now, maybe 8:30. We'll see. I'm going to play with the time. Obviously, you want to hit, if you hit subscribe, then you can also hit notify, and that way you'll be notified of the 3 videos almost every single day that I put out. Wholesale inventories came in at 0.2% higher, which was less than the 0.4% increase last month, but 0.2% higher than the 0 increase expected. This is a nothing issue, a non-issue, is not impacting the stock market at all today. So this means that the merchandise that came in, the very large amounts of imports that came in March and early April have been processed. They're through the system. They're not bogged down in the system. That's good news, but not good enough news to change anybody's mind. Market Watch says this: markets have been pricing in a slowdown in growth since trade war hostilities commenced with China and everywhere around the country. For Morgan Stanley's equity strategy team, led by Michael Wilson, this is now discounted. And even though macro data and earnings may soften over the summer as a consequence of uncertainty, they forecast a better second half of 2025. Who else is forecasting a better second half of 2025? Morgan Stanley identifies an improving rate of change in earnings per share revisions, the net proportion of analysts raising rather than lowering profits estimates across the S&P 500. S&P 500 is about to get back to all-time highs. As the key analyst for equities behind a better second half in 2025. In our experience, when revisions breadth is accelerating in a V-shaped manner from an extreme low, equity markets typically remain supported and pullbacks remain shallow and unsatisfying, like the past 6 weeks. We also had Tom Lee coming in this morning saying he thinks the S&P gets to 6,600 by the end of the year. I think that's a low number. The S&P 500 closed Friday just over 6,000, which is a 24% gain from its April 7 low. Morgan Stanley's team believes key leading indicators are already suggesting a recovery from what they say is not just tariff uncertainty, but also payback in demand post the pre-tariff pull forward. Moreover, their view is that the dollar weakness should support earnings per share revisions and provide a strong tailwind for the markets. It's worth noting that the firm recently made headlines with their bearish forecast of $91 for the dollar by mid-2026. Could happen, but I don't think it's gonna. The firm also anticipates that the AI CapEx cycle has bottomed after an announcement of China's DeepSeek created much negative sentiment in the sector in January. NVIDIA is the crucial stock in terms of AI capital spending, and its gross margins seem on a surer footing at 60.5% than they did in 2024 at 78.4. So in other words, NVIDIA's earnings have come down to 60, their margins have come down to 60.5. That means that we may not have as much negative kind of forward-looking thinking about their margins, which at 78.4 seemed impossible to maintain. The team also believes one further engine of growth for equity should be provided by the Fed, which has been on a hold through 2025. But in the latter half of the year, better visibility on the effect of tariffs may allow a line of sight to rate cuts. The Fed may need to inject liquidity and pivot to a more dovish stance to help the Treasury fund its deficits going forward, they say. Okay, I agree. They should do it now, though. Their preference is for cyclicals and higher beta growth areas of the market that have already performed I guess their preference is for cyclicals, but also for higher beta growth areas that have already performed strongly. If flows continue to pursue momentum stocks, then capital goods and financial services will continue to attract buyers. I like what they said for the most part. What about you? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go ahead and look. We've got Tesla in the green. I just had to wait long enough. You see, that's why I'm doing the show a little bit later. It's up 0.1% this morning. The Dow Jones is down 0.26. NASDAQ is up 0.37. S&P is up 0.07. So with all the negatives going on in the Tesla world, the Robotaxi is going to pull Tesla back up. And I think we're just seeing the beginning of that. We're getting very, very close to the launch. Whether it's the 12th or the 14th or the 18th or the 30th, if it's in June, we're getting close and people are going to start getting in the stock. We have got the Magnificent Seven all up except for Microsoft, which is barely down. NVIDIA up 1.76%, to mention NVIDIA, which was just mentioned in that article. We've got the Cathie Woods that are mixed this morning, but mostly heading towards the green for those that are currently down. Okay, well, Tesla's now just barely down again. So we're hugging the zero number. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the bonds. We've got, so a New York Fed survey shows that inflation fears receded in May as Trump eased tariff threats. There you go. So we're starting to see it happening across the board. All right, so let's look at bonds. We have got bonds down 1.8 basis points. This is good news. Maybe that New York Fed report is helping that this morning. We're at 4.492, back under 4.5. Man, we got a lot of room to make up there. We've got oil up a little bit this morning, up a half a buck to $65.10. This is not good. We'll see what happens after the U.S.-China trade talks conclude. Whether or not, I mean, China is stimulating their economy. I'm sure this is part of what's going on here, is that oil is responding to the fact that China is doing massive stimulus in their economy, and maybe they're going to make a deal with the U.S., which will be helpful to China. Anyway, natural gas down 4% this morning to 3.62. We've got gold down this morning, just a tad, $2.90, 33.43. Silver continuing up 1.8% to $36.80. The only thing I can find is that silver and gold are out of alignment with each other over time. And so this might be catch up by silver at this point. Nothing else, really nothing else that I can find. Copper up 1.67%, almost at $5. That's interesting. We have got the dollar mix this morning, but it's still staying up very close to the high levels it's been recently. Bitcoin showing some risk on, I guess, maybe. Bitcoin up 1555, 107.9. And there you go. Those are the numbers this morning. As I mentioned, I am going to put up a card right now for that video that I did yesterday where I showed, I don't know, I didn't count the number of products, 10, 12, 15, maybe product categories and or products that Tesla probably could get into, probably may get into. And actually, there's one special category, one special thing that I talked about, which would indicate that Tesla can basically get into any product. They can just decide tomorrow to get into any product they want to and destroy the market, completely take over any market they want to. What, Randy? What are you even talking about? That's crazy. No, any market. I don't care what the market is, in particular product markets because of the manufacturing prowess, but there's a bunch of different reasons why they could basically take over any market that they want to. Go ahead, take a look. I'll put the card up right here. Later today, guess what? It's normal day. We're going to have Larry around 4:30, probably 5 o'clock, and we're going to have Brian White at 7:45. That's all I got for you today, except one last look at Tesla to see where they're at right now. So back down a half point. So again, bouncing around that zero. We'll see what happens as the day progresses. As always, it has been great talking to you.